welcome to another episode of People Talk with me, Paul Lawrence. Today we have a slightly different format. What we've done today, we have no panel guest except for myself and yourselves. So anybody at all who'd like to join it, the details are in my Facebook post about this event, is happy to join. So far, we've had a couple of gentlemen who have come in and joined. Gents, don't panic because you can't unmute yourself. I'll give you that ability in a couple of seconds. Just want to do my normal intro and probably also explain to people why I'm doing it this way today. And, what am I doing different and why am I doing so? Let's make a quick confession. It is bloody hard to come up not only with a good, engaging topic you can sit there and laugh, David, I can see you. It's not easy to just come up with a engaging topic every single week. That's number one. And second of all, both Andy and David have been on the show before. It's hard to get 3 to 4 people who will come on and contribute and provide, excellent viewing for the people who take that time out on a Sunday to watch us. So no doubt it's been a challenge. And so what I decided to do today was to just freelance, just go free, open it up to anybody who wants to come in. You can certainly come into the chat within Zoom. You can come in Zoom. You can camera on, camera off. I don't mind. Have your topic, talk about what we want to talk about. We spend a lot of time on Facebook, for example, having these conversations that aren't really conversations. We put posts up, people comment, we agree, we disagree, we angry face, whatever it is. But I don't think we should allow that to replace the art of conversation. And anyone who knows me even slightly knows there's nothing I love more than a good argument. Yeah. We don't have to end up not being friends anymore, but if that's the way you want to go, then that's cool too. But I love a good back and forth because it stretches you. It stretches you as an individual. It gives you an opportunity to widen how you think, to widen your experiences, and simply to just hear other views, and be able to say, well, yeah, I'm going to take that on or not. So that's what we want to do this week. No different from how I've done the show in previous weeks. I want to start, before I let everybody live, as it were, I want to start with a couple of topics which sort of came to my interest. And feel free, if this is one of the topics that you want to talk about, feel free. Just come into the Zoom. Like I said, I'll post the Zoom details right below the live feed now. If you can't bother to search through my page, happy for you to do that. But also, if you have a topic which is not mentioned and that's something that works for you, then perfectly. Come in, have it. I'd really rather if your camera was on, because doing it like this does leave us a bit open to those hackers. But if you must, for other reasons, have it off, please make sure your name is showing on your Zoom thing and comment there. And as usual, I will try to monitor into Facebook and pick up the comments that are there so that I'm able to see what's going on there as well, and make sure that we take on board those comments as much as the ones that are in the Zoom. I don't want anyone to feel left out, as it were, simply because they didn't feel they wanted to join the Zoom. So this is the way we're going to run it today. This is what we're trying to do. I'm biding for time right now because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find the Zoom details to put them below the live feed in the video, which I'm just about to do now. And then we're going to crack on. A number of people have already joined me in the Zoom. It's impossible for me to, as it were, introduce them all. I know some of them I don't know. But welcome. welcome to those of you who have joined the Zoom. I can say directly, Andy Roach has maintained his record in terms of joining this. I think he's probably missed one, and that's Eddie Nestor is to blame for that, because Eddie's incredible show from from 1 to 2 is just so good. I know Andy got caught up, so we forgive Andy for that. But I also have David Frederick, who was on a show before. I believe he's a excellent accountant, tax accountant, or something to that effect. David, meet Andy. Andy's from the HMRC tax crew, so you all can get together and plot to steal all our money. Because we know you're that type of person. Mark Williams, I've seen Mark's name a couple of times, so I know Mark. Mark has been around. And of course, I'm joined by Teams Global. And I'm going to give a big shout out to the people from Teams Global. I'm assuming that it's Angela who has joined. Now, Teams Global is a Black business organization of which I'm a member. I've been a member for about 2 years now. And look, we have a lot of talking shops that do a lot of talking about Black business, but I can tell you for free, well, not really for free, but Teams Global is probably one of the best business groups that I've come across, not just in terms of their consistency, but in terms of the caliber of people that run it and the caliber of the members. I can say without any doubt that some of the big decisions that I've had to make and been able to make for my company, Just Tickets, if it wasn't for Teams, I wouldn't have done them. On that note, I just want to send an apology as it goes to some of the people who've been using Just Tickets over the last 24 hours, because our hosting company collapsed, died. They had a cut fiber and it caused a major issue, and we were off the air for a number of hours. And we're back up now. So big shout out to Marcia Dixon MBE. I get to call her Marcia Dixon MB because she's one of the great supporters of the site, and she has an incredible event, Destined to Soar, which is coming up on November 5th, I believe. And I know she's had people patiently waiting to book tickets and they weren't able to do so. But enough of that. That is not what you're here for. You're not here for the extended advert. But why not? The topics that I was thinking about, the topics I was thinking about this week were just varied. So I was thinking about, just this whole saga with COVID. It's been generating a lot of conversations. And I think as people have now gotten more and more into it, bored of it, frustrated with it, I think we're starting to show signs of stress around the whole thing. When I look at some of the arguments that are breaking out now, between people who are on Facebook about, whether the BAME community is more susceptible, whether it's all a plot for us to all get vaccinated, whether it's all part of some master plan. I don't know. There's a lot going around, but we also have so many other bits and pieces, because hidden behind everything that's going on in and around good old COVID, we still have Brexit. We still have Brexit, and again, that the houses are split in terms of how it goes, because some people are saying, actually, good old Boris is playing a blinder. Yeah, that's what some people are saying. Other people are saying, well, this is just more buffoonery. My personal view is that Boris had no control over these things anyway, because if we go back historically and we think historically about who Boris Johnson is and how he came to be on the side of Leave, it tells us stuff. And so for us to assume that somehow he is somehow, in control of what is happening, it's just wrong. He's not in control. Boris set into motion these circumstances not because of any great conviction for Brexit, but as a political move. He wanted power. Yeah, let's not make any mistakes about it. The only reason why David Cameron authorized the referendum was not because he thought he would lose. He thought it was a sure thing to win. And it was more of a mechanism to quell those within his party who were upset. They were upset. There were people who were absolutely upset at being in Europe. And those people were UKIP. And what was happening at the time, for those of us who do remember, he had people leaving from the party over to UKIP. And that erosion is something he thought he had to fix. His idea was that the best way to fix it was to have a referendum that would quiet people down, because if they had a referendum and lost, they'd have to shut up. Sort of the way they're talking to the Scots right now about their referendum. You lost, so shut up. But it went against him. So let's stop this thing that somehow Boris is in control and this is all a part of some master plan for Boris. Boris, before Brexit, was a pro-European. He was a strong pro-European. There's no two ways about it. That is documented in his own words. And so for him to suddenly now become the champion, we have to start to ask ourselves a deeper question. So we had that. We had the revelation that a 7-week-old company, 7 weeks old, won a £122 million government contract for PPE. I'm going to repeat that because there's a lot of you out there who work in companies who do procurement. And so you need to hear me say this again. A 7-week-old, actually 44-day-old company won a £122 million government contract to supply PPE. Unbelievable. And of course, we know that if they were that young, that tells you there was no bidding process, because there's no government bidding process that you and I can ever be aware of that could have been completed in 44 days. It's just not possible. You could call it, a COVID emergency move or what. It's just not possible. And so while we're all debating and we're all concerning ourselves about, whether we should be called BAME, whether we should be called this, Boris and crew are just feeding themselves. Also in the news, and it's still on Boris, is the young lady from the US who said, of course, she and Boris had a bit of a relationship. No qualities for taste, but, I understand power is a very attractive thing for you ladies. And so, clearly that must be it, why people are attracted to Boris. If Boris was Jamaican, we'd call him a waste man. Yeah, the man's got more baby mothers than Shabba. What's going on? Yeah, and this is the guy who's leading the country, who people are trying to tell me, you know what, Paul? He's got this. Nah. If Boris was black, we would have sacked him long ago. We would have been walking around saying, boy, the brother shame we, man. Yeah, the brother get a little break and look how he shame us. Come on, guys. I cannot believe that there are still some black people and white people under Boris's spell. I don't get it. His Obeah man must be tip top. Yeah. Straight out of St. Thomas. Because there's no other explanation for the amount of lives this man has. Yeah. Must be a St. Thomas Obeah man. Yeah. Because those are the only people I know can put that level of juju on a whole population. And of course, we know that Trump shares that Obeah man. Yep. Because at least Boris's Obeah man only have 68 million of us to juju. Trump, they have 254 million. Yep. And it's safe to say that a couple million well. Look, Mark, I'm not here to entertain you, man. This is just reality. Yeah. This is just reality. And it's almost, you hear yourself saying things and you're thinking to yourself, you're going to wake up and find that this is a dream. This can't all be real. All of these events cannot all be happening at the same time. It just makes absolutely no sense. But the reality is, all of these things are happening at the same time. And we do have people who are adamant that Boris is the guy. Let's continue. We talk, it's Black History Month, and, a couple days, probably a week and a half ago, they decided, I don't know if it was 4 or 6 letterboxes to make them black, and to say that was their recognition of Black History Month. Well, they've continued. Now they've gone for a 50p coin, and on that 50p coin it says diversity built Britain. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's not my understanding of what actually built Britain. But for me, it is this continuation. And it's most appropriate that in this Black History Month, we see this continuation, and that's the only word I can call it, of this lie about history. This is Black History Month. And I understand that this 50p coin is to commemorate Black history. But I ask you, is it not rape, murder, and forced labor that brought about the Britain that we built? When are they going to be able to say the truth? When? And this is the question that you have to ask yourself when you hear people saying, oh, why does there need to be a Black History Month? It is exactly these reasons why we need to have a Black History Month. Because if we don't have a Black History Month, the lies continue. There's nothing pushing back against the lies. And it's quite arrogant of them to think that now in 2020, we still don't have any idea of what actually built Britain. Of course we know what built Britain. Yeah, BBC documentary about Britain's hidden past talks about the 17 billion that was paid out to the slave owners. 17 billion was paid out to them. And what did they do with that money? No, they didn't go on holiday to the south of Spain or France. What they did was they built this country with that money. They funded the railroads. They funded factories, insurance companies, banks. Institutions which are still alive today owe their history to that 17 billion that was paid out. And some of you are saying, what did we get? Well, let me tell you what the slaves got. The slaves got 6 years unpaid work. That was written into the rules. The rules said that for 6 more years, you would work in what they called an apprenticeship. And you were unpaid for that. That's what we got. So when people say to me, why do we need Black History Month? We need Black History Month because if not, this tide of hypocrisy, this denial, this refusal to accept the truth will become what we are known for. But my doctor said I must look after myself and I must make my blood pressure get up. So everybody who's on the participant stuff now, guys, look, it's a load of you, wholly more than I expected, so welcome. And I know there's people out there in Facebook land. While I was talking, I sneakily allowed you all to unmute yourselves. Yeah, but I don't want it to be chaos. So if you have a comment, if you have a question, don't let me sit down and talk throughout the whole show. Raise your hand, and when I say go for it, we go for it. Oh, yes. Sir, without any fail of doubt, you didn't have to raise your hand like that. I mean, the software, raise your hand. Andy Roach, how are you, sir?
Not bad, yourself?
I'm very well, Andy.
Just say one thing. Saying that I am from HMRC, I'm surprised that people still dialed in. I was expecting, or are these their real names? But that's another question entirely, so.
Well, I can't let people dial into a show where you are without them knowing you're there.
Oh, okay, yes. That is the point.
Yeah?
Yes, I understand that. I mean, I'll touch upon the last topic that you was touching upon in terms of denying history. I think if your whole sense of self is built on what you've been taught, why would you want to unlearn that? Why would you challenge that? Because at the end of the day, you hand that down. I mean, you know, your place in the world and your offspring, that's what you hand, that's part of your legacy that you hand over. So if you have to challenge your history, you have to challenge your very sense of self. You have to look at, well, everything possibly that I've got is built on a lie. And that, you know, psychologically, that's very challenging. So to me, it's not surprising that there's so much more done. It's a lot of effort to actually keep truth hidden. There's a lot of time and expense given to do that. So that shouldn't be surprised. Whether we, in acknowledging that and recognizing that, are swayed from that battle. I think, you know, we owe it to the generations who follow us, but more importantly, the generations before us who battled and who battled to give us the ability to maybe make a change. So for me, you know, I can't now sit here and just say, you know what, it's a battle that you know, it's tiring, it's demanding, but so I think it's important that we encourage anyone within the community to actually look and say, you know what can we do to affect change, to make it a different future for the next generations?
So what can we do?
Afternoon, everyone. Sorry, was you going to say something?
No, go on, Mark. Absolutely.
I wanted to just challenge something you were saying there, Andy. Not necessarily, you know, to just disagree, but you said that you pointed to our self. What was that word you used?
Gee, I forgot it. Self-worth, maybe self-worth.
Self-worth, kind of self-identity, okay, and how that is passed on. And my challenge to that is to say that this connects to labels. If we are saying that we are defined in a particular way, yeah, and whatever this is passed to us, right? If we are not taking responsibility for self and saying, well, am I that? Am I the label that has been passed to me? Then we are doing ourselves a disservice. You see what I'm saying? So it's just that, really. We don't have to accept something wherever it comes from. And there's a word which is cognitive dissonance. It connects to this kind of the way that we fail continually to challenge these ideas, because once we're faced with it, it's too hard, right?
Yeah.
So we retreat. That is doing ourselves a disservice, yeah? And so we get the continuation of these ideas and these beliefs that we are, yeah? And it's not just about whether Europeans do that to us, it's that we do that to ourselves, first and foremost, you know what I mean? And until we can consistently challenge that, yeah, we'll always stay in whatever place we have been prescribed or prescribed for us. You know what I mean? So that's
if I may quickly, Paul, just come out, I perfectly agree. And what it is that I said, first of all, we as the Black community shouldn't accept the narrative that is written for us in some regards. So we start with ourselves, so that in that ensuing battle to improve our situation, we're going to come up against resistance. So for me, it's not about the white community in what shape or form accepting truth. It's about us accepting and doing what we can to,
And so this for me connects to everything that Paul has brought up and our further investigation. And it's about how we think. You know what I mean? It's how we apply thought to things is the issue. And I don't think, I'd say that we're not taught this when we're young people or children. There's a lot that is, you know, to the side. And I'm only coming out of this as an older person, you know what I mean, in the course of discoveries. And I sat there and I thought, you know, these things don't make sense. Why don't they make sense? And it's because of the way that I've approached these things. So it's not, you know, just necessarily a criticism. Actually, this goes back further. This goes back way to our schooling and everything in terms of how we critically assess and think about things. And I've used, you know.
But isn't that, gents? Isn't that about, and I've always said this, is that the British education system has been designed with a distinct two-tier method. So, for example, and again, disclaimer, I wasn't educated here. Yep. So let me put that disclaimer out here. But I was educated in a system which strongly mirrors the British system. And so when I look at the education system that I came to the UK, my son has gone through it. What I saw was that stuff like critical thinking wasn't mentioned. It's not something that they encouraged. And even stuff like competition. Yeah. I can remember one mother telling me that, her daughter came home crying because at primary school, she was the best javelin thrower in her school. And when they had the inter-school sports, they asked another girl to represent the school. And the argument was, well, you always win. So they actively discourage this competition, this stuff. But if you go to the private schools, if you go to the big Etons, they are savage when it comes to competition. So what's the result? The result, you have this so-called ruling class, and I hope everybody sees the quotes, because I don't want anybody to say Paul said they were the ruling class who see themselves as superior, who are trained in business competition, business combat. They believe in winners and losers. Meanwhile, the masses, we're just happy to get a job in the factory. We're pretty happy to get a job down in the factory. And we're socialized to think that the pinnacle of what we're trying to do is to get that gold watch. I don't even know if they give a gold watch anymore. Yeah. So we have to understand the entire way that British society is structured is designed. And I think the important point as well that sometimes as Black people we miss that this is not just something they've done to us as Black people. This is something they have done to the working class. Yeah. And I'm a Black man, so I know I'm getting my blows. But we should never ignore the fact that if they are willing to do this to their own, what's our expectation? That suddenly they're going to treat us better than their own? Nah. These people are not just racist. They are also classist. And when you are subject to both of those, then you know about. Yeah? And that's the reality of how things are. Yeah? And what we have learned to do, some of us have learned to think of this place as a meritocracy. So there's lots of us who are walking around thinking, well, okay, look, if I get myself a degree, if I get myself a good job, I'll be able to conquer all of this. Those are generally the people who, when they're in their 60s, they go mental because they suddenly realize that, it doesn't work that way. You're not going to get your dues. Yeah. So there you go. But, that's the cynic in me. I'm happy to be opposed on that. But that is definitely the cynic in me talking about this. This is all structured. Yeah. And that's why one of the first things they did when they went to the Caribbean, when they went to Africa, was stick down religion. Religion was a binding tool. Yeah. Now, don't go say Paul's an atheist. Yeah, my mother was a pastor and she would roll in her grave if she felt her son was an atheist. But let's call a spade a shovel. The reality of the matter is they use religion to bind us, to tell us that there's this place where everything's going to be all right. As the artist them say, we want food with milk and honey. Yes, sir. Yeah? I'm not so sure if that other place there's milk and honey. Andy, go on. Don't put your hand up, dude.
I accustomed to it. I mean, I was going to say in terms of religion, I mean, maybe this is where I wrestle with religion fundamentally, or organized religion, even if people want to say that. For me, religion teaches obedience. So you said about critical thinking. If you teach obedience, if you're given something, as long as you accept that who is giving that to you, sort of knowledge, say, or information, shouldn't be challenged. You're just going to accept it. You're not going to question. You're not even going to instinctively, even if your instinct tell you, well, that doesn't sound right, you're just going to shut it down. going to find a way to shut it down. So for me, that's why I guess, I mean, my parents are heavily religious as well. They go to church, not at the moment, but they go to church. Even my dad's family actively try to encourage me to get into church and get heavily involved. And I just cannot, because I cannot do obedience. I don't think human beings were created to be obedient. And for me, that, you know.
I disagree, Andy. And I'm going to say this because I know the Christian crew will come for me if I let it go this way. I don't think obedience is the problem. I think it's obedience without question. I think that's the problem. Yeah. So, you know, I look at okay, and you know what? You guys can't tear up my Jamaican passport because it's bona fide. I look at the indiscipline among my Jamaican people. Yes, I can say that's where I come from. Yeah. There's no discipline. We don't have discipline. Yeah. It's not an our thing. We're rebellious. You tell us A, we say B, C, D, E. That's how we roll. The Christian doctrine is not that bad if you find the Christians who are willing to question things. They question things. So I've had the privilege of listening to guys like Dr. Robert Beckford. Yeah, a few weeks ago, I was on a Zoom with him and I heard him speaking. And he's one of the few Christians who I've heard who they're strong in their faith, but they question things. And that obedience is not blind obedience. And that's where I think we've gotten wrapped up. And it's all wrapped into the education, how we were educated, how
that's a mistake though, isn't it? See, that's a great myth. That's the fundamental. You said it 3 times now, education. See, people confuse education with long-time schooling, and they're different things, because many of us were schooled for a long time, okay, and we leave with pieces of paper, okay, we can pass the exams, okay. That doesn't equate to education as well too. Yeah. So I tell people, okay, yes, I was long-time school, but fortunately, okay, I was also educated outside of school, you see, and there's a difference. It's about knowing yourself. So for example, when we were at school and we were reading things like David Triffith and so forth, that wasn't my take, nor Kidnapped and so forth. I was on different trips and so forth. So therefore, okay, I chose in those days to opt out of going to English Lit for those reasons. Okay, went to Shakespeare's class, but other things I wasn't into that as well too. So it's about choosing and defining what's yours and understanding what's yours, and also being able to navigate the obstacles out there as well too. So I think you can use their education to your benefit, providing you also schooled as well too, because we often confuse going to school for a long time, okay, as being educated and so forth. Yeah, and I meet many people, because I've been in this game a long time as an educator and person in the schooling system, okay, high level and so forth, and you must separate the two. And we also must learn to accept, must learn to understand, okay, we must not be accepting of the food people feed us. Yeah, if we do take the food they feed us, okay, it will bloat us and destroy us. We must also choose what is right for us and become discerning. Yeah.
David, I got to ask this question,
yeah.
and anybody can answer this. I hear what you say.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what you say. How do you get to that mindset that you even know you need to question it?
Right.
Because when you're young, okay, for me, okay, you grew up in West London, okay, and you notice an attribute I notice, okay. Lots of my people, yeah, were always doing 2 and 3 jobs, yeah. Or then you go to a secondary school and you notice, oh, a different environment. So you start saying to yourself, okay, you know what? I want a different pie, okay. I want some of that pie in that respects, okay. And also when you're sold a dream at school, when out of school, in your environment, you're being harassed, troubled, and everything else by the superstructure, you start to think to yourself, hang on, something's not quite right here. And you engage with the likes of your educated grassroots and other people, okay, to find out a bit more, yeah. And you realize, I hear that, and yeah, but I understand you, but you don't understand me.
I think that there's a few things that are missing from this conversation. Paul, you said about, you know, Black people or Jamaicans being rebellious, and I think that's true in a sense, but I think that misses out what we started when we were talking, and I was talking, responding to Andy about critical thinking. I also think that there is, when David was talking about education, and I'm wondering whether you are equating education with knowledge, because you're talking about what I would say is formal schooling. I'm going to say I have a formal education, I've got a degree, but I also got a road, what I would call a road education. All of those things are knowledge, and all of those things are useful in terms of how and, you know, where I find myself. Yeah, so they are applicable to different things. But the other thing about when it comes to religion, and I'm going to say, and it was an interesting, I thought was a useful segue into this whole COVID thing, because not because I want to necessarily talk about it now, but to me, it's become a religion. And so what you have there is a concept of power. Most of us, you know, religious parents, religious parenting, that is not necessarily only about religion in itself. That is about the power of the people from whom it comes. Yeah, that is why you believe, and get to this point where you don't question because your parents told you that, right? So I think that there is a part of that. But the other thing to add as well is a sociological issue, which is we're in a group now, and we agree that, you know, we're all good with each other. If a person leaves, it's their power that they are using to do so. If we say, come out, leave, that's a whole different question. That's a whole different issue. That's a whole power dynamic going on there, because now you are rejected. This is a social thing. We learn this from school. Yeah, this is playground stuff. You know what I mean? So I just want to throw some of that in as, you know, additions to this conversation, not rights or wrongs or anything like that, but I'm just saying that they are, in understanding how this works, we have to throw in these things.
No, it's all very valid points. There's lots of people here in the Zoom, more than I expected today, but if you guys want to contribute, don't just type these wonderful comments in the comment stream. And remember, I can actually see everybody's faces, so I know who's smiling excessively and who's not. There are a couple of people in the Zoom who don't have their cameras on. Hey, if you still want to contribute, please unmute yourself and do so. It's easier if I can see you, because then I know that you want to contribute. Guys, look, you know, we want to have a broad ranging conversation. And I think one of the topics that it comes up twice a year, every year, and it's one of the things that I mentioned in my post on Facebook, was about the honors system. So we've just had a certain amount of honors have been dropped, and as usual, you get the same comments saying, "Well done, congratulations. You know, it's a wonderful thing. It opens doors." But then you also have the very strong, "Nah, we not accept nothing with the word empire in it. Massa can keep that." We have all of that. Where do the guys who are on the call today stand? What's your views? Mark, look, this head shaking thing not gonna work. Andy, I want to hear from Mark.
Yeah, I think, yes.
What was that head shake?
He unmuted.
Right. It was connected to a conversation or something that came up in another group, and it is just, there was an image of a young woman who has become the first, I think, Jamaican woman actually to be accepted into Oxford, prestigious Oxford. That's how the meme goes. And my thing is, why is Oxford associated with prestige? Where is our association with prestige when it comes to education and these kind of things? And there's a whole other, you know, conversation about, you know, having institutions and stuff like that. But as long as we are saying Oxford is the place to go, Cambridge is the place to go, Eton is the place to go, and that's where the prestige is at, we're doing ourselves another disservice.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm going to add, I mean, you know, I was having a Facebook discussion with someone else about something where, linking in anyone, Ice Cube speaking to Donald Trump. And, you know, initially my reaction is, why would anyone want to speak to that idiot? But that's me. But then you sit down and you think, all right, you're in the world, you've got to navigate it. Sometimes you have to interact with people who you don't choose to be your friends, but by interacting with them, are you saying you're friends? So in terms of any honors, my question would be, as if people are saying, for instance, now, the idea of critical thinking, if you're saying that these honors open doors for you to then further the course of, say, the Black community, the people who are getting honors now who are within the Black community, they are not the first. So you'll have to look at, have the people who previously got them, have they actually opened? I'm not saying that they don't try to. That's a different story, because I'm not accusing anyone who got it on that basis to doing that. But fundamentally, and so then that leads on. If power hands you something, is it giving it with no conditions? It's giving it with a condition. So if it gives you something and you know the condition is fundamental to what you're trying to do, there's a contradiction there. So it's about someone giving you something and then not giving you something before. You think, you automatically question, should I take it? Should I ask those questions? Should I find out, are they giving me this genuinely, or have they actually sucked me into something? So I'm still on the side of, I would not accept an honor.
Okay, they've changed the honor system under the Quiet, yeah, because they had a couple of high-profile refusals. Yeah, we all know Benjamin Zephaniah famously refused his, and a couple more high-profile people did, and they changed it. So what happens now is part of the application has to be that you have confirmed with the person that if they were to get it, they would accept it. Yeah. So that the question is now being asked before. Yeah. So people actually know that they're up for it. They don't know if they're going to get it, but they do know that their name being put forward. Yeah. And I can see David's really trying to understand that one. But that's what's happened, because they've had these high profile people who've turned around and said, nah, not interested. Because prior to this, it was simply someone said, look, I think David's a good guy. I think he's done a lot for the community. I'm going to put him forward for it, because it's not the state that does it. The state doesn't reach out and select you for an honor, which is part and parcel of the reason why some people say, yeah, I can accept it, because this is not the state bestowing me the honor. This is my people who have seen my works requesting it on my behalf. So there's that. But they have changed it now so that they're not going to get that shame fears anymore when people turn it down. So, you know, it is what it is. And you know what? I hear what you say, Mark, about us bigging up their institutions. I don't know how we get around that. Because if you're from Jamaica, you're from the Caribbean, you're from the colonies or the former colonies, then it's been beaten into you that the pinnacle of academic achievement is Oxford and Cambridge.
You know what? I don't want to say it shouldn't be done. I don't really have an opinion either way. I'm just mindful that when we are talking about these things, there is a part of that which is about value. Yeah, we're attaching value. They are deciding what is of value for us. Yeah, but you know, there's another part of that which is about a person's personal, you know, acceptance and recognition maybe of their own achievements, and that's got nothing to do with me necessarily. There is an argument, and I think Andy alluded to that, which is, how does this impact the community? Does it impact the community? What can this person do for the community? Is that our business maybe if they don't do anything and it's really for their own personal, you know, gain or something like that? I don't have a particular opinion about that.
Okay, let's push the conversation on. So one of the things that happened this week, which was of great interest to me, was a program with the guy Mo Gilligan, that comedy guy. You know, he did a program, I think it was called Black, British and Funny. And it was an excellent program. Yeah, it was an excellent program because what he was doing, he was looking at the state of Black comedy, and he was looking at black comedy through the lens of what we can only but call the very overt racism. And he made a lot of statements, but one of the statements that he made, which resonated with me, was he said, it's as if they think black people can't be funny. And that if we are funny, we're only funny within a black context. And, you know, you had guys like Mr. C, Angie Lamar, my good friend Angie. I can call Angie a good friend because men are a friend. Yeah, I noticed in the background we had the Smurf himself, Daddy Smurf, sitting down very quietly, Eddie Nestor doing his fatherly look. But then you also had the young guys who were doing their stuff. Yeah, we heard from Kane Brown, we heard from Quincy, we heard from a whole range of black comedians. And it never occurred to me, probably my mistake, that a lot of these guys had to hold down other jobs. You know, these are brilliant comedians. Yet whenever I've been to their shows, it's filled to the rafters. But some of them have to still hold down other jobs. You know, Gina Asheray, in order to make it, what did Gina do? She left. Yeah. And I'm looking at Slim saying almost exactly the same thing. And I didn't say I'm Slim, by the way. I said I was looking at the comedian named Slim saying that he might have to leave as well. When I hear that, and I put that in reference to people who say, well, you know, I've never experienced racism, or white people, the establishment, who say, well, you know, we've kind of overcome racism. Again, it comes back to this question of denial. Yeah, did anyone else see that program? Come on, ladies, I've already told you, you can't just sit there. Margaret, I know you're there. Sharon, Albert. Yeah, come on, give us a word or two. Andrew, go on.
Let me quickly throw out something here and link it back to the honour system, which I suppose is an issue for me. When you do something, I mean, Mark alludes to it, you know, you can't exclude yourself. So you're going to do something that incorporates you, and you may then look out of the your immediate self. So for me, because you said the honour system, you have to recommend someone. I can't self-nominate, can I? So if someone nominates me for an honour,
hold on. You can kind of self-nominate.
Okay, well, why I'm asking that is, there's a lot of things that the black community needs to do. I think we need to organise, and if people are not, you know, this might sound controversial, but people are reluctant to organise and support the very organisation out there trying. They need, you know, people, but then they nominate someone for honour. Does that make them feel good? So, you've got an honour, you can go and do the work. That sometimes excludes me from joining you in doing the necessary work. So maybe I sound really cynical, not because I haven't got one, but I just think the whole matter of an honour, what is its purpose? So, and then touching people in terms of that show, I did watch it, and yeah, it's interesting where some of the younger comedians said, we stand legacy, we stand on your shoulders. It wasn't for you breaking down some of the barriers that we can then go and then pull you through. So for me, you know, you can't just do it for self. You have to think about who's around you, even if you're just thinking of your immediate family. So the idea is that sometimes you do things and you just think of yourself and you game the system and you hope that the system will support you, as you just alluded to. You know, people going with big dreams, all of a sudden they find that they're struggling. And then the very people that, you know, you could be ignoring sometimes, you're turning to, they're looking at you thinking, well, you know, when you were making it, did you think of me? And now you're falling on your feet. You want me to come and support you again. So there's a lot of things in there, I guess I'm saying that it's just a bit.
Well, let me just, a comment that's out in Facebook by Stella De Silva. Stella is out in the Middle East. I'm not sure which one of the Middle East country she is, but she's a regular here, and she implores me not to forget the people on Facebook. And she makes a comment, you know, in terms of an honor list, it's about you. You make a decision whether you want to take it or leave it, you know? And she said she's not offended that you're recognized for the good you do in your community. And I think, you know, I've pondered upon it in terms of the thing, and I get the argument about the empire, the word empire in the honor. But I also think about it in terms that we live in the UK, we are part and parcel of the UK, and if somebody in our community says to us that they feel that we are worthy of an honor, irrespective of where it comes from, we should do so. But I think this is the point at which this is another example of things we should do for ourselves. Yeah. So I've been to many, many, many award ceremonies. Obviously, none this year, where they've sought to really give awards to community groups and organizations. Everybody knows I'm a member of the 100, and I've been a member of the 100 from day dot. And it's a nice feeling when your community has made a decision that they want to honor you in that sort of a way. Yana, you've put your hand up. Go for it. Unmute yourself and speak. You're still muted.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Very clearly.
Hi, everybody from Cardiff in Wales. I've
Oh,
got
by
an
the way,
opinion.
for those who don't know, Cardiff is on that side of the country. They're right beside Wales, where they all talk funny.
No, we talk Welsh. Well, I don't speak Welsh myself, but I believe I got a Welsh accent. But yes, thank you for letting me contribute. For me, it's I can hear both sides of the argument for receiving awards, and many would say that it's tokenistic, that it ticks a lot of boxes, but I think it's down to the individual perspective. So when I received an award for the work that I do in Wales from the Welsh Government, which was nominated by friends of mine who know me really well, then I was buzzing. And there is that argument, oh yes, it ticks a lot of boxes. I really don't care about that. It's about how I use that award to further the work that I'm doing within the community. And it has opened doors, it has got me recognition. So I think it's about our mindset, our viewpoint, our perspective. So when I'm asked to sit on particular panels and then people are telling me that, oh, well, it's just so they've got a black person and they can tick this box and tick that box, I am still going to go ahead and I am going to find out for myself. If it is a situation like that, then I can use my knowledge and skills and understanding to turn that around, because I'm at the table. I've got a seat at the table. But if we don't have a seat at the table because we put barriers up in front of ourselves thinking, well, they're only ticking their boxes and it's all rhetoric, then I think we do ourselves a disservice.
Okay, and that we're hearing from someone who has been recognized. Margaret, you unmuted. Did you want to say something?
I've come to this a bit late, so I'm a bit sorry. I just
okay, let me update you. It's a free-for-all this week. You can talk about anything you wanna.
Okay, well, I'm just picking up on some comments that people have made. I just wanted to sort of say that I think as Black people, we're behind because we don't have the confidence to stick up for ourselves.
Yes.
Where when I sort of look at other races, they tend to work together and push each other forward. And I think that we're on the back pedal and we're learning now. Oh my goodness, we're still so far behind. We've got a lot of work to do. I think we need to start working together and pushing ourselves forward, because I think a lot of people are tired. They're realizing now how far we aren't forward. And I think now people are starting to wake up and really thinking, actually, we really need to start doing something. And I think that's why I'm noticing a different energy in people now, in how they're wanting to move forward, because I've seen so many different people from different cultures who are gaining things and accepting it. But I think it's because we were beaten down so much. That the confidence just got knocked out of us, that we were in survival mode for so very, very long. And I think now we're saying, hold on a minute, let us stand up. And I think that's why you're seeing more people. And I think
can I throw something into that, Margaret? Because I'm not sure if it was last week or one of the weeks. I spoke about our justifiable fear of a lot of the authority figures around us. So we begin everything with a very cynical, probably even fearful approach to stuff, because justifiably we have a long history of seeing them betray us.
Yeah.
We have a long history of seeing them persecute us unfairly. So these things are real. And for a lot of us, it's very difficult for us to put a trust, any level of trust in the system, even as so much as we don't even know if we want to work with them. You know, we've seen the big outcry with Ice Cube approaching the Trump thing. And, you know, everybody knows where I stand on Trump. But Trump is in power. There's a possibility that he may still be in power next year this time. Why shouldn't we, and please don't all unfriend me at the same time. Why shouldn't we try to get the best from him? I'm not saying we're gonna. I'm saying, what's wrong with saying to him, don't like you, you're a borderline pedo, but you're gonna be here next year this time. This is where we stand.
Yeah.
And we, I think because we've been betrayed so much, we've had a whole generation, and maybe this generation is different, but we've had a whole generation of just thrown our hands up and just said, they're never going to change. It's never going to get any better. What can I do?
Why should we trust? See, the issue is, okay, when you're going to battle it, yeah, you're going to play chess, yeah, and the game is such, okay, I don't have to like you, okay, but I find a way to work with you for what I want to get out of it and so forth. So whether I like you or not is irrelevant, to tell the truth, but I've got my own agenda, okay, and I need to go for that. And too often, okay, we put our emotional feelings first, okay, and we must keep emotional feelings to ourselves, okay, and just let's be clinical. We want something, we go for it and so forth, and we sell it. Yeah, we sell the dream, we talk the dream in the same way everybody else does with us, okay. Oh, you're one of us and so forth, okay, and whether they mean it or not, okay, it's irrelevant. They want something. So therefore, when we go to negotiate, okay, you play the same game too. Oh yeah, me and you, whatever and so forth. I know I want. Don't let them get that, okay. That's fine, because in that case, people are being used instrumentally and so forth as a means to an end. So therefore, we shouldn't get strung up, okay, about being used, okay, because we're used to being used. It's about time we do the using. There's nothing wrong with getting what you want from somebody and so forth, because for many centuries, okay, yeah, people have got from us always, yeah, and we're the only people who've never owned and controlled anybody at all, yeah, because we're nice, yeah. Being nice is morally wrong. I tell people, okay, yeah, when you're nice, okay, we open our door, okay, they come and take everything from us and so forth. Stop opening your door and go to their house and open their door and whatever and so forth. You know, it's got to be strategic. Think strategically and so forth. I'd rather be nice and lovey-dovey and so forth. Yeah, we want something, we're going to go for it. Yeah.
Angela?
I think we need to look at what is it that we are looking to achieve by having those initials after our name. What are we looking to do? And what is it that we can't be doing? What is it that we can't be doing to get that same achievement amongst ourselves? Why can't we create hubs around the country and make it national within our own community and build ourselves up that way? That's a good start, I think. I've got a friend that is doing a something like this in Yorkshire. Actually, I think Errol Brown, if it's the same Errol Brown I know, is actually on, and he knows the person. And they're actually having a big, massive thing for Yorkshire next week where they're recognising people that have done things in the community. Why can't we do things like that?
Well, you know, here's the tragedy, you know, and this is my role today. So like I said, don't all unfriend me at once. We have a long tradition of having award ceremonies. Yeah. But I can tell you, some of the award ceremonies we've had have become marketing tools. Yeah, they've gone from being justified awards for good service to becoming a method by which I, Paul, can put award winner on my signature. And what we've done is we've made the pendulum swing too far the other way, and we've devalued our awards. You know, I can remember famously going to one award ceremony, and you know, I'll give you three things out of that award ceremony. First of all, there were 72 categories. Second of all, each category had probably about 20, 25 nominees. And you're asking yourself, well, why would they do that? Now, the third point I'd raise is that one of the categories, and please don't tell me I'm lying, was Best Former Beauty Queen. Now, I used to teach math, so everything for me is about mathematics. So what I did, I worked out the math. If you have 72 categories with 20 nominees each, you give one free ticket to the nominee, and family say they're going to support them, so they're going to turn up. You've already got 300 plus people in the room. Yeah. So what is essentially just a marketing ploy for the Best Former Beauty Queen, because she came to you and said, could you market my business, please? It's a profit-making thing, and it devalues it. So I stopped going to award ceremonies. Yeah, I stopped being a part of them. Yeah, because the 100 Black Men, we were getting awards left, right, and center from people we never knew. And when you ask them, what do you know about us? Well, we kind of don't know nothing about you, but we hear you're good.
Marketing, yes, yes.
Pure marketing. So
yes,
if we're gonna set up our own standards, which I agree with, I absolutely agree that we need to set up our own standards. It has to be above reproach. Yeah, it has to be something that when I say I am a Teams award winner, it must have clout. It must mean something. I'm a very proud member, and for those of you who don't know, Angela, who just spoke, is one of the founding people of Teams, a business group. And I'm proud of that because they have integrity. I don't want no award from somebody who they gave an award to 17 other people and they had 45 other people in the same category to make up numbers because they know we're not coming to no award ceremony by ourselves. I see through it. And if I'm going to be honest, I find it insulting that you think you could slip that past me. Yes, I am arrogant. And it bothers me when people think they can slip stuff like that past me. Yeah. So yeah, I'm for it. I agree with Angela. Let's do stuff for ourselves. Let's set up community things, but let's keep it above the level. Yeah. Let's make sure that when we talk about Black excellence, it is indeed Black excellence. Because I tell you what, when we raise up somebody and when we raise them up and say, Angela is excellent and she's found wanting, boy, they will slaughter us with that. Yeah, that guy in the US who promised to pay all the students tuition. Yeah. You see how he's in the news? He wasn't in the news that much when he offered to pay the tuition. Yeah. We struggled to find any articles on him when he made that offer. Now that he's done a Trump, you can't escape him. He's all over the news. Yeah. So we need to be sure and confident, and we need to start to act in confidence. Yeah. We need to act in confidence, because if we don't act in confidence, they will continue to keep us in this role. And that's why I have such great love for my African brothers. And I'm talking about the African brothers who are direct from Africa. Yeah. Not people like myself who came via the Caribbean. I don't know what it is about them. I don't know what it is about my Nigerian brothers and sisters and my Ghanaians, and they are just so confident. Yes, I know their experience was different from us in the Caribbean. But I tell you, if you go among them, you go to their events, you listen to them talk, and people can call it what they want. I call it confidence.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree.
I buy into that. I like that.
Can I just say one thing before Andy comes through? I think whatever we decide to do and whatever thoughts we have to always remember that we've got generations behind us that are looking to us now. We're at that senior level now in what we do and in age, and we need to make sure that we continue to build the confidence for the people that are coming through behind us. We've got to give them something to strive towards too.
Yes.
And they're looking towards us, like we look to our elders to a certain degree.
Andy?
Exactly so.
Yeah, I want to touch upon, I just add in something you said about, so when you go to a table, so we want a seat at the table. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Yes.
But you said about the mistrust. So my mind is, if I'm going to sit at a table and I need to take, you've got a gun pointing at me, either I want my own gun or I want someone else sitting there just in case. So for me, what it's about, I need to prepare who am I sitting down with and try and anticipate what they're going to do, because what they want and how they're going to go about getting it. So that level of mistrust. So I suppose people have got into a situation where you think, because I've got to sit at the table, you're actually going to listen to me and take on board what I'm saying. You go, you sit there, you come there, and it's like, oh, a minute, you listened to me, but you didn't do anything. Not saying that you have to do what I say, but you've not even considered what I have to say. So I don't just want a seat at the table. I don't need to invite me when it suits you. I want a permanent seat at that table, because a permanent seat means when I'm not there, someone from my community will be there. And someone else coming there won't say, well, why is he there? Everyone around that table knows why everyone else is there, rather than you've got to be invited so that you can then be uninvited. Everyone in the world should be at the table. You shouldn't have to ask for an invite. You should be there at the table because you exist, you count.
You know, I said something once on my Facebook page about power. Yeah. If somebody gives you power, that means they can take it away. Yeah. Yes. And I'm very cautious of being let in, you know, because if you let me in, you can throw me out. And that for me is important. Madam Cardiff, you wanted to speak again.
Yes. I think having a seat at the table is also down to the individual. I mean, there have been many times when I've wanted a seat at the table and haven't got it. But I as I've got older, I've learned that I need to form relationships with the people in power to enable me to get a seat at the table. And if I'm not being given a seat at the table, I'm asking why. Explain to me. And I am very persistent. And it's that persistence, I think, that is making my voice louder, because I will not back down. I'm at an age now where, yes, I have the confidence to be able to push forward. And I think that is something that we need to hand down to our generations. And yes, they can, things might not go as well as you want them to go at the table, but then that's down to the individual to get to know the people, their behaviors, their norms. I study quite a lot of the people in the Welsh Assembly. I'm all their friends. I'm not here to make enemies, but I want to find out how that person works so that I can find a way in which we can work together to benefit the greater good.
So how about this? So I hear what you're saying. I get it. The table is there. We have to work. But what we've seen, especially over the last 2 to 3 years, is, and you know, it's funny because a guy has just posted in Facebook exactly what I'm about to say. And I'll tell you a story about the guy who's just posted it. Donovan Godfrey Hendricks, who's a classmate of mine from Jamaica. And I was about to say, people like Stormzy have made their own tables.
Yes.
Yeah. Guys like Stormzy has realized that actually,
yes,
you know, I could spend another 30, 40 years waiting for them to play ball with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my wealth, use my influence, use my power to make my own table. And I think that's where the confidence starts to come in, which I think Margaret was talking about. That confidence where we start to say, look, I'm going to make my table. You all may not come, but my table is going to be here for those who do. And I think that's where we're seeing this tide changing with these younger people. These younger people, they're tired of waiting. That's why the Black Lives Matter movement has blown up so much, especially among the young. The old folks like me, I don't want to go out in the rain and walk up and down. But the young bloods, they're tired. And they're tired of talking as well. Yeah? Mark, I can see your brain going, Mark.
You know, I just wanted to tag, I think we're all saying the same thing, but I think that in a lot of ways, we come back to this word value. And you've you know, inadvertently said that, and something Angela said as well. And I think that's key. And so when we're talking about the table, the question is, what is the table, and kind of what are we bringing to the table? Yeah, you're talking about Stormzy. Stormzy has value based on wealth, right? This is a powernomics game. If we're looking for acceptance based on some notion of sympathy, I think we're playing the game incorrectly. If we are playing it from a point of view of, you know, we have an economic base. Now we've got bargaining chips. You know what I mean? We're changing the game from that point of view. And I think that for a long time, you know, and I take the point that the lady mentioned about being, you know, quite far behind. I say we are 1,000 years behind. That's what I say. You think about what's happened from, you know, the beginning of the Gregorian calendar, 0, whatever it is, and all of that time, yeah, in terms of development. We were there, but we are not fabled with being the architects of it, yeah, even though we were. We talk about slavery and all that kind of stuff. So I think in terms of what's happening, in terms of our connection to economy and our understanding of how that works, I think we have a bit of an issue. But to me, the basic principle is to play from that point of view. It's about economics. What was slavery? It, apart from the racial aspect, was about economics.
All about economics. All about economics. I'm due to give a talk to one of the larger international telecommunications companies next week. I won't name them because the gentleman who's employing me has been very cautious. You know, I'm hoping he's not listening to this, but he's been very cautious about what I might say. You know, he's been but one of the things that I will be saying is about understanding the economics. You know, when we talk about slavery, you know, it wasn't benevolence why they gave us slavery. It was money. Yep. And it was also an economic decision, because while there were campaigns about the ending of slavery, and, you know, there's a lot of focus on Wilberforce and what he did, people seem to forget that at that same time, Haitians and Jamaicans were burning down the place. Yeah. And any businessman will tell you that if your stock, which is what they considered us, are actively destroying your product, you have to make a business decision. And I have no doubt that at some point, the slave owners started to say to themselves, how do we unpick this conundrum? We have on one side public opinion shifting against us. So the lies we told about the inferiority and the nature of Black people are starting to unravel slowly. And we have those people destroying our business bottom line. So their value is going. If we can get them to pay us some money, which is what they did, that was a get out clause. So all this talk about, you know, it was the English who freed us. Nah, the English renegotiated the contract. Yeah, if I say it in business terms, they renegotiated the contract. Go on, Mark.
I was just going to say, you see it in the States as well. What happened was Europeans or white folk couldn't get jobs because you had a system of free labor. How do you compete with a system of free labor?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, guys, it's already 1 hour and 15, and I have enjoyed today immensely. Yeah, and that's not to say I'm going to finish right now. It's just to say thank you so much for joining because you've helped to fuel this conversation. But there are other bits and pieces which I wanted to talk about, you know, and I want to lighten it a little bit because today in my feed on Facebook, I got, you know, you get these notices of 1 year ago, 2 years ago. Well, a year ago, a lady actually from Bristol, not Cardiff, near enough, had invited me up to Wrexham to do a talk on Black history. What were you guys doing a year ago? Angela, I also got a notification, by the way, that a year ago, me and a certain Peter Broderick were at the Teams Day. Yeah. So what were we doing a year ago? Let's not kill the conversation in terms of everything. What were we doing a year ago that we're not doing this year? We're not going to be doing this year.
Well, we've done it this year. We did it last week, remember? Online.
Go on. Free advert. Go for it.
We had our business education and networking day, didn't we?
Yes, we
so
did.
Many of us in our community that are in business or going towards business and want that encouragement towards it came and joined us. And we had a number of great presenters, including yourself, who shared brilliant pockets of information to support us to move forward with our businesses and with ourselves as people.
Okay,
so that
cool.
all took place last week, didn't it? For the whole day.
And while you're there, Albert, who is actually on the Zoom, he mentioned that he has so much more faith in the younger generation. I don't know how old Albert is, but that's his comment that he's put into the Zoom about his faith and that they've really inspired him this year. And I agree with that. They've certainly been inspiration. Andy, what were you doing last year this time of note?
I was in sunny Barbados.
Oh,
not in
God.
this blasted cold, as they say. So if you can see the vexed look on my face, I hear freezing.
Oh,
not literally freezing, but it's my skin can't take this weather. I really can't.
You know
just a quick funny story. When I got old enough I asked my dad once. I said, "What made you actually come to England?" He said, "Well, he got bored of the view." Oh, okay. Well, what was that view? He said, "I could look out my window and I could see the beach." And so the answer, I got tired. I looked at my dad. I thought, "My God!" So I could have been somewhere looking at a beach or something like that. I'm here now looking at grey and cold. So I don't hate my dad. I'll say that, but you know, I do question that. I really have to question that. I can't understand how anyone can get bored of a view like that. So that's just me. But
you know, it's funny because I think most people know by now that I was actually born in the UK. Yeah. You didn't know, Andy?
I didn't know.
Well, there you go. Let's just keep it between us and the 24 other people on Facebook. I was actually born in the UK, and in 1968, my dad took the whole family to Jamaica for holiday. Yeah. And my mom says that when he came back, he was not the same. And so in 1971, he packed up the whole family and took us all back to Jamaica. Yeah. So your dad got tired of the view in Barbados. My dad got tired of the view in London. And that's how come I grew up in Jamaica. You know? Well, there you go, Angela. You didn't know that. Yeah, that's why I have 3 passports. Jamaican, British, and Klingon.
Well, I'm working on getting my Bajan one.
And
Andy,
you should definitely get.
I'm working on getting my Bajan one.
Everybody, and I'm not saying this lightly, every Black person, remember, and I used to do talks about this, about moving to the Caribbean, and I know there's been a spin-off talk about moving to Africa. Yep, I don't vex with them, you know, it'll teeth me idea, but that's cool anyway. You can claim your nationality, another nationality, as far back as your grandparents. Yeah. And I'm not saying you need to leave the UK. I'm saying you need to have options. Yeah. Don't sit here complaining about Boris every day complaining about Trump if you're in the US. I know Errol's in the US listening to this, but no, Errol a yard man, I have a yard passport already. Just make sure that you have options. Yeah. Your voice is so diminished when you have no options. Yeah. You're really diminished. Yeah. Whether it's Nigeria, Ghana, the Congo, wherever it is, Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica. And by the way, I know everybody would like to be Jamaican, so come along. We have space. Yeah. But seriously, guys, don't put yourself in a situation where if the worst come to the worst and you absolutely can't handle this place, you have no get out clause. Yeah. That's not the heritage that you're from. You're supposed to have a get out clause. And I can't think of anything more soul destroying than were I to wake up tomorrow and think, doesn't matter what they do, I gotta stay. I'm not in that position. Yeah. Okay, guys. Any topics that you guys wanted to cover that we haven't talked about? Donna says last year this time she was attending the Black and Asian Police Association Awards and Gala. Is that Donna Murray Turner? Yeah. Is that Donna Murray Turner? I suspect it is. Donna had an interesting conversation this week about gatekeepers, yeah, in society and the role that Black people who are in positions of gatekeeping, what role they play. And that was an interesting and very revealing conversation about some of the attitudes that people have towards what they may or may not consider to be successful Black people. That was a very interesting one. And no, it's not that Donna, it's a different Donna. Okay, so I have lots of Donna friends apparently who attend similar events. Isn't that funny? Well, welcome Donna, who isn't Donna Murray Turner. It's all good. Andy, do you have a topic?
Death. Now, people might think that's a strange topic. I'm going to explain why I say death. You can't, well, you, the person going to die, can't prepare for death necessarily. But you should prepare for what happens afterwards to who you leave behind. And those people who you leave behind should be preparing for what they may need to do when you've died. I wouldn't say necessarily that it's not talked about within the Black community, but I think it's something that is not always talked about properly. I mean, we've got wills and other things in surrounding to that. I mean, all right, someone can die suddenly. You're not prepared for that, certainly. But then, unfortunately, the world keeps turning. You've got to get on with it. And at some point, as the people that support you have to get on with what they're doing. So, whilst you're dealing with the grief of that, you've got to take part in the world that you find yourself in. And I don't think that people sit down and actually consider that if A dies suddenly, is that going to mean that the infrastructure that they're maybe instrumental in or part of will fall apart? So I think we need to get over this. Anyone who's sitting there, maybe they can come back at me in whatever shape or form. You can't avoid talking about death. We're all going to experience it, but we've got to think about how important we could be to someone else. And if we leave them, if we go suddenly, for instance, have we prepared for that fact that we are going to die? So that's the topic that I think.
I think what's interesting about this, and I hate to raise this again, that's a tax man telling you. Yeah. So and I have seen families literally tear themselves apart because of that lack of preparedness for death and the tax implications that it has.
Yeah. Half.
I know Charmaine Simpson, who was on this show a couple of weeks ago, is an endless campaigner. And if you need any help, please do go onto my Facebook page and look in my friends list for Charmaine Simpson. She and her husband, Mark, also are the Black History Studies people. Yeah. And she talks endlessly about this preparation for death. And I can only reference what I was told when I was a lot younger, which was, you never know when you're going to pop your cogs. So the moment you have any assets at all, you need to have a will. And every time your assets change, whether up or down, you need to change your will. So that the question of something unexpected happen is no longer unexpected. Yeah? because you can pop your cogs at 21 just as well as if you're 91. Yeah, death is no respecter of your age. You know, and it's funny you should raise that because our brother, the Black Panther, the articles are saying that he passed away without a will. I, don't know how true it is, but that is what is being floated around on social media. And, when you think about the legacy that he left in our lives differently, it would be very unfortunate if his wife would now have to struggle with the legal system around that. So, Andy, your words are strong. Your words are strong.
Let me quickly touch on that. As you said there, Angela's actually going to come in, so I'll just quickly say, sorry, in terms of wife, people assume that certain titles give you automatic access to certain things. You could be a wife, and if a will's not written, you may find that the person who benefits the most may be another relative. Sometimes there are incidents where people think, oh, I'm the wife, I'm going to get X, and you don't, and then you're in an uncomfortable position. And as you said there, I'll end there, it destroys families. You're grieving, you're trying to deal with things, yet you've got to deal with this. And the state, unfortunately, the state's not coming there and be sympathetic, or they can't be. They can't take sides. And there you are trying to deal with your grief of this person's gone. All of a sudden, you've got to try and deal with this. That's the aspect I want to talk about. I think needs to be talked about. It can destroy family relationships so long that the ripple effect can go far and wide. So I just think it's important that you can't ignore that conversation. Sorry, Angela.
Yeah.
No, thanks for that. And I totally agree with you. And I think it's not even at the point of our demise. So Paul, you need to have a subject on this, because I agree that our community get nervous about talking about this sort of thing. And we're talking about, look how many people are going to homes now. We even have to get our things in order for that. There are so many people that are losing their homes because they don't realise that they can put it into trusts and stuff. And a lot of people, you ask them what a trust is, and they don't know what a trust is really. They don't know the ins and outs of it. And these are all things that could save us on tax. These are all things that, if you have your house, I can't remember the terminology now, but there is, if you've got two people living in a home, their own house, then one share of that can't be touched. If you're talking about if you're talking about one of them going into a home, I can't remember, you may know the terminology, Andy, but things like that should be discussed between us. They should be discussed, because we leave ourselves too wide open.
Why don't we discuss it?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's, actually, I think one of the points is because it's fear. Because I think they feel that if they put a will in place, if they put things in place, it's tempting fate. There is a lot of that amongst the elder, and I think it's a lot to do with that.
I remember when I said to my mom, that you should do a will. Her response, and I love my mom to death. Her response was, "But it's just a 2-hour no."
I think we do talk about it, but I think we talk about it in an abstract way, and this connects to religion. I think we have a death anxiety, really. The conversations, and this is just my personal view, the conversations that we have about heaven and hell and that kind of stuff is the conversation. But there's a practical element of that, which is completely separate from the idea of the Messiah. We're going to have, someone fly through the sky and it's going to save the day. And I think that is pervasive in a lot of conversations about a lot of different things. But that's my view.
Well, I add as well quickly, even to the degree of burying someone. I mean, it's less expensive to cremate someone. But again, you say to someone, oh, if you die, I may cremate you. I want to be buried. So then, but have you put things into place so that that's not an expense maybe on me? And maybe there's a feeling of, well, let's say I've got a mother and father still alive, fortunately enough. One of them dies. Okay, one of them dies. The other one's there possibly, but I may have to chip in. Say, I'm not saying that I'm not. So people sit there thinking I'm saying that I'm selfish. But if you can't afford something, it's going to put you in a particular position, especially if it's unexpected. Suddenly, let's say you're moving house. All of a sudden, your parent dies, or someone dies, and you've got to try and divert money. Then you're doing that. You could be in a very difficult situation. So to load that on me and not, and then again, there's the bitterness, because you're going to think, well, hold a minute, You didn't prepare. That's on my shoulders. That's unfair. Then there's fighting amongst the siblings because like who's going to take that on board? So there's so much things that can go on, but we don't talk about, as Mark said, the practicalities of it. At the end of the day, people just think you will be buried. You may not be. Or you may not be buried, certainly to any degree of what you will want the respect and having that thing. We're in the COVID time now. That's another thing. So there's so many different things that you can actually anticipate and prepare for because it's happened before.
I think
that's what you're doing.
I think what's really scary for me is, and I don't know how anybody else on the call feels about it, but GoFundMe to bury people. I find that more scary than having to talk about a will. Yeah, just for me to think that my son, I only have one son, and for me to think that I would pass away and he would have to ring my friends up and say, look, we need to do a GoFundMe to bury Paul. That for me is more scary than me sitting down and saying, I want this to go to my son. It's only him, but I want this to go to him. He's on all of my documents as my benefactor for everything. You know, the little bastard asked me about my personal license plate. You know, he said to me, Dad, what happens to your personal plate if you die? I'm like, dude, really? Really?
What's that about though as well though? What is that about kind of that tradition whereby we want to be remembered in a certain way? Because that kind of what you were saying there, Paul, makes me think that.
Well, I don't know if it's about me wanting to be remembered in a certain way, but what I don't want my son to suffer financial issues because I pass away. Yeah.
And I don't mean in a personal way, but I was probably connecting to both of what you said, Andy, as well, about that tradition. We want the horse-drawn cart or carriage. Yeah. We don't want to be burnt. We don't want to be cremated. Completely impractical. We're not even talking about the money, but the tradition is there. That says something. That statement says something. And I'm pretty sure all of us, when we go to a funeral, right? If that funeral isn't how we think it should be, we got something to say about it. The food ain't right. We got something to say about it. And that's really what I mean.
I think it's weird. I think again, I've watched funerals change from a celebration of a person's life into a bashment, where people turn up to judge the food, to judge the turnout, to judge the coffin. And I'm like, please don't come to my funeral. Yeah, in the midst of my son and my loved ones grieving, I don't make me have to get up out of the coffin and do you something. Yeah, just let people grieve. And we've changed. I've seen people rating a funeral by the turnout. Rating a funeral. Did you see the coffin? That's not what it's about. Yeah. And what I don't want my son to be on any sort of pressure to perform. Yep. I want him to be able to bury his father with the level of dignity that he knew I lived my life with, whatever that might be. And that's it. I don't want no night because I'm not a bashment person. So you're all not invited around. Let's be crystal clear. Yeah. There will be none of that. None of the come down up with son food. Yeah. It's not happening. Yeah. So let's just be crystal clear. None of that.
One of the things that we probably don't do enough of is letting others know that, right? I've actually got my funeral plan, and a number of people have said to me, you haven't. But what if anything happens? Well, then my funeral plan comes into action. Hey, I've paid for it and everything already. I don't have anything to worry about, right? I don't have to worry about leaving that price on my children. And if I so wish, I can write down the hymns I want, whatever I want. It's up to us to do it now. What's the fear? That's the way I look at it.
Added to that, in the Facebook, JT Chance has mentioned something which I've never thought about. And as a business owner, probably we should be thinking about. She talked about our intellectual property. Yeah. So, you know, I sit here thinking about it, and I think, you know, I have a company, Just Tickets, has been running for a while. What would happen? You know, yeah, my son knows about it, but could he keep the business going? Yeah. Would they transfer everything to him? You know, the bank accounts, everything that's associated with it. Would they transfer it to him? Maybe not. Something I need to look into. So thanks for that, JT. Thanks for that contribution. Andy, again, you keep putting your hand up. I'm going to start ignoring you.
I know. It's such a habit. It's easier than going there, but I mean, I'm picking up something that's actually, I think Mark mentioned, and maybe Angie as well, in terms of tradition. I didn't forget, I was at my children's mother, her parents used to work with a couple, and the wife died. And they had that tradition of 9 nights. All right, the husband, he's grieving. He said, all right, look, you're going to come round, it's tradition. However, there will be no alcohol served, and don't bring any alcohol. No dominoes. Just come and be, you know, you're coming to support me. That's the main thing, hopefully. And don't forget, and that was the first time I ever actually witnessed that. One gentleman said, why can't we play dominoes? I've just said he got out dominoes. I said, look, he got annoyed and left. So he was at the house of his friend, maybe relative, who was grieving. His wife had died earlier that week or that day or whatever. And rather than think about, okay, he's grieving, I'm here to support him, he was thinking about, here is the tradition, and it's important to follow this tradition. You think, oh, all right, a tradition starts and you do it but for a reason. So the fact that, again, I mean, this touch it almost about critical thinking. Along the way, you come from a tradition to where it becomes what it wasn't meant to be when it was first started. People come in, they're dominoes, and someone's sitting there grieving, they've lost their wife, and you're not even paying attention to them. You're sitting there, you're having a party. It's like,
you know what, man? It gets to a point where you're in there and the people don't even know what the event is about. You know, there are people there who you ask them, so why are you here? Who are you related to? They don't have a clue, but curry, goat, and rice are share, and them want some. Yeah. Okay, look, guys, it is now an hour and 39 minutes. It's been a great discussion. People have really enjoyed it, both in the Zoom and on Facebook. It's been good. I'd just like to say a quick shout out to Dr. Carlton Brown. Carlton is also a team member, a previous guest. He does some extremely great products, really taking Jamaican type products. Go, Carlton, your hand is raised. Go on, speak. Carlton?
Hi, Paul. Sorry.
Just want to say
thank you, Paul. Just want to say thank you, Paul. Great show as normal. Well done. Enjoyed the contribution, just listening in to see what was going on. But continue your good work, Paul. And we salute you. But we also recognize the good work that your contribution that you do as well.
Is that it?
That's it.
God,
I'm not even there to promote. See, it's not always about promotion sometimes, Paul, because you've done that.
I hear that.
Right?
I hear that.
It's also about recognizing what you do.
And respect for that. Yeah, so I'm actually looking to wrap up now because this has been longer than I thought it would last, but it's been good. I'm trying to have what I call a President's Day on the 1st of November. So everybody knows I've been a member of the 100 Black Men of London for pushing 20 odd years now. And so I am trying to bring all of the former and current presidents onto the show. It's my show, so I'm allowed to big up the people I want to big up. And I think the 100 Black Men of London have delivered a world-class standard of service to our community over the last 20 years. And I'd like you guys to meet the men who made this all happen. The 100 is unashamedly a male-led organization. And for all the people who are going to say chauvinistic, let me explain to you why we have maintained that stance. Because generally, man, them worthless. And if we had allowed women to be a part of the leadership, they would have taken it over by now and let the men off the hook. So we have steadfastly said this is going to be a male-led thing. If it means we only have one member, so be it. Fortunately, we've never had so few. Yeah. And so I thought it'd be great. We've just started our new season of our community mentoring program. Can I say award-winning? We've won several awards, both here and the US. The 100 is a US organization in its inception back in the 60s, 100 Black Men of America. And our community program here in London has been much heralded across America as the way to do things. Yep. So we're not just a chapter, we're a leading chapter and represent. So hopefully on the 1st of November, I will have all of the gentlemen who have held the title, including the current president. I'm waiting on one more confirmation and we'll have that. And it's an opportunity for people to see the thinking, understand why we do what we do, and maybe hear some of the challenges that the 100 has gone through. I can remember very much back in the day when, you know, we were just bringing it together and we were just starting to think about it. People who I remember, by the way, looked at us and said, "You're not going to last 5 years. You guys, Black men can't organize themselves that well to last 5 years." So 22 years later, kind of saying egg on your face. Yeah. And I'd like people to know more, encourage you to send your children out. It's very different this year. We're delivering all of our programs online. You know, we don't get media coverage. You know, in my 22 years, I think every single year when we have invited the media to our graduations, no one has ever turned up. No one. Not a single soul. Black media, white media, nobody turned up. And yet, if somebody gets stabbed, they ring us for comment. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. So that's what we're trying to line up in the future. This has been another nice day, a nice chit chat with people I know. Some people are new. Mark, really nice to link with you. I know you're in and around my Facebook page. It's nice to put a face to it, and an animate face and a discussion. Andy, it's great. We can't have another comment right now, Andy, sorry. But it's nice to have Andy, the consistency. Angela, always a pleasure. And Carlton, other people in the chat, it's always great. And of course, I would be executed if I forgot all the people out in Facebook land. And I'm told, Stella said to let us know that she's in Iman in the Middle East. That's where she listens from. And I know I have people from all over the US who listen. Some of them are family members. Some of them go to Jamaica College, not really a good school, but we give them a blind. I don't know. And yeah, it's been great. And I thank you a lot. So this is me signing off. Look forward to the show next week, Sunday, 2:00 UK time. Spread the word. Doesn't matter how, we're going to be here and we're going to have something to say. Thank you so much.